Hello, my name is Chris Thompson. I'm an artist and animator from Belfast. Today we're going to be having a look at the program I use to produce all my work, Blender, and we're going to be making a TARDIS model. I've sort of pitched this tutorial at quite a low level, so intermediate or experienced Blender users are probably going to want to skip this one, and I am being patronisingly kind of simple with it, but hopefully if you've never booted up Blender before in your life and you want to give it a go, this tutorial might be helpful to you. Let's get started. Right, this is what Blender looks like when you first boot it up. I'm going to briefly go through navigation just so that we all know where we are. Holding in the middle mouse button orbits around the object in the center of the screen. You scroll in and out using the wheel. There is usually a numpad on the side of your computers on the right hand side of the keyboard. The numbers there let you see different things. So if you hit 7, brings you above the model. 1 brings you on its y-axis, and 3 brings you on its x-axis. If you hit 0 on that numpad, that brings you back into wherever your camera is. More on that later. And if you hit 5, that turns off perspective, so you get a nice orthographic view of the model. So first, it's always handy to get in our reference. You can do this freehand or just by sort of looking at an image separately, but honestly, whenever it comes to making this stuff accurate, it helps to have a little bit of something to work with. So I have downloaded this image of the Matt Smith TARDIS from the internet. I think it is one of the toys, but that's not terribly important right now. Just drag it into Blender. Boom, there it is. It's automatically going to orientate itself to whatever view you're in, so hit one of the 1 or 3 keys just so that you're nice straight on so you can view your way through it. So we're going to drag this over to the cube, which automatically loads up when you start Blender. So what you do is, at the very start, you're able to work out which button selects. I always go for right click just because I'm an OG Blender user, but left click if that's what you do. So you select the image using either the left or right click, in my case it's right click, and hit G. G is what you use to move objects around. There we go, boom. So G, bring it over to the cube, scale it using the S key. S makes things go big or small, and just make sure it's roughly right there on the money. Right, now this is our cube. We select it using the right key, and yeah, it's obviously not far off. Luckily the TARDIS is a square, which is why, basically a cube anyway, which is why I picked this particular project. Let's hit 1 to go into orthographic mode, and let's hit tab. Whenever you're in Blender, essentially there is one mode for moving kind of general objects around, and then a separate mode for individually manipulating those objects. So if you hit tab, you go into this view, and not much has changed except you've got a whole pile of tools down the left hand side here, and also you can now see the little vertices that make up the model, and you can distort it like so. Select a vertice, use the G key, move it around. Select 2 vertices, use the S key to make them big and small. Very exciting. Up here you can select different edges and size and things like that. So if you select the edge select, you can select edges as the name would describe. Here we go. Whoop. And here is the faces key, and that means you can have a play about with that. But that is important for what we're going to go now, so let's go back to numpad 1, aside on. You can also change the general viewing of how you view objects. So if you hit the Z key, boom, and go to wireframe, you can see through objects, and this is going to be extremely useful whenever we're working away on using this reference. So first up, let's go to this view, make sure the top edge is selected, go back to that view using numpad 1, use the G key and move it up. To lock movements to one particular angle, just so it's a bit easier, you can use the Z key, and that means you are locked to going up and down. So let's bring that up there. Let's select this little bottom one, bring it down there. Cool. It's a good start, I think, you know. whatever. If you're having trouble following along, just FYI, you can see what number of keys and number pad stuff I'm using down here. Anywho, right. So that's kind of a basic start to it, but let's make it a little bit more complicated. As you can see, the TARDIS has got this little bit of a base on it. So let's go down. Select this little edge here. At the moment, we've just got the one box, but to make more boxes, you can use the E key, which extrudes. Extruding does that. Brings it down a bit lower. Let's go back to the reference. So yeah, you can scale that up so it matches, and then you can hit the E key again to bring that down. And huzzah! That's got the base, and then gonna do these little signs separately just because they kind of stick out a bit, but these top bits don't, so make sure that top one is selected. Doesn't necessarily need to be perfect on your first try. I don't like that much at all. If you ever don't like something, you can Control Z your way to undo something. So scale that in. E goes up. And up here we've got like a little roof to it, so E to bring it up, and S scale that into the lamp. Boom. Not looking too bad. Right. So here we go. We've got these little kind of side bits here. So what I am going to do for those, I think, is I am going to make a new box and make that a little bit easier that way. So what I'm going to do for that is select that corner. It'll be left click if you're using the right mouse button, or the other way around if you're using the left. And you can add a new cube by Shift A, cube, brings your entirely new cube in. Scale that down, bring up your reference once again. Go back to Wireframe using Z and there. Now I've made this whole thing a bit too big, so what I can do is go into this mode, go to Wireframe, hit B. B brings up this little like box selector here. Scale that in a little bit. So it's like that. Then if you notice, it's kind of done that. So S and Z. And that brings us back up to there. Cool. Right. Now, Wireframe. Make this as big as this little support here and scale it up that way. G key, bring it down there, and you want to keep tabs on where everything is on the other angles, so hit GY, move that in about there. Fair enough. And yeah, duplicate that, I guess. So to duplicate something in Blender, you hit Shift and D, and that makes a new one. And then G, and then X to lock along the X side axis, and drag that over there. So you got two of those, and then select them both. Shift D, G, Y, and drag them along this axis. Again, if it was a professional gig, I'd probably not be eyeballing it so much just off random chance, but you know what? This is just a bit of fun. So, yeah, let's bring those up a little bit taller. So, select this one, select this one, select this one, select this one, And now, rather than scaling everything up proportionally, what we can do is that we can go back into the tab mode, and you'll notice that it's highlighted all these ones, and then we make sure all these top edges are selected. Like I said, right mouse button or left mouse button, depending which one you have selected, and just bring them up there so it matches the end. Boom. It's coming along. Sweet. Right. Now let's tackle the sign. I'm going to do the text last, but for just the moment, make a cube, scale it down a little bit, just so it's roughly in line with the sign. Bring it across. Scale it as you need to. And then they don't stick that far out of the side. So scale that in a little bit. Maybe a bit more. Booyah. Nice. So while we're working on this bit as well, we want to get the black police box area. So make sure that front is selected. Go into Wireframe. Hit E like we did before to extrude. But instead of extruding, you let go, deselect, and then scale it in. In fact, no. Let's not do that, Chris. How about? Right. Let's get the little blank band on the public phone box area. So select that. Go into that view. Tab. Select the front panel. And then what you can do, just go to Wireframe for a moment, is hit the I key. The I key lets us kind of just do what we were doing earlier with the extrude, but it lets us do it without having to like extrude out basically. I can't remember exactly what I comes for, but I'm sure I'll put up a wee thing whenever I remember. So scale along the x-axis, so S and X, and let's make that a little bit bigger. That looks about right. Then extrude it in. And there you go. Not looking too bad. Right. Let's not worry about the letters just yet. We'll do that last. So, what should we do next? Let's do the panels. Because it's the TARDIS, we have these like little wooden panels here, the two windows, all these 6 here, and obviously the sign. So, what is rapidly going to become your friend whenever it comes to working with Blender is the loop cut panel. The loop cut panel basically allows us to make a new edge or group of vertices across different sections of the mesh without having to extrude them out or anything like that. So in this instance, what I'm going to do is, let's do the door first. So that basically cuts a line down that particular mesh. Going to need one there as well, and that means that we can modify that mesh from here. Ain't that cool? Woohoo. Let's not go too complicated. You can do a lot of cool stuff with that, but we'll save that for later. Bring another one up here, just so that we're not interfering with anything behind the sign. One about there, one about there, one about there, and yeah, let's go for one about there. Cool. And then while we're at it, one about there, just at that edge, and one about there. Boom. Cool. Gonna have to do this for the other sides, but for the moment, let's just roll with this one. Right, what we can do now is we can select each of these that we want to work with of these panels, and then like before, we hit the I key. It'll try and like extrude them all as one unit before. We don't want that. We want it to hit I a second time, and that does this. How cool is that? Vaguely. You know what? Let's not knock it. not done it quite the same size, so what we do is we just go back to this view, go down each one, hit S, hit X, scale it to what we need, go down this one, select each individual one, go to Wireframe, hit S, hit X, scale it to what we need. Yeah, that's roughly right. Yeah, I'll live. And immediately fix this top one, go into the edge cut, edge select that edge, bring it down. Wonderful. Perfection. And then we select each of these individual boxes, the TARDIS's 8-pack, if you will, and hit E for extrude. Extrude them in a little bit, like so. Isn't that starting to take shape rather lovely? Cool. Now you're probably wondering, Chris, what about the windows? Well, we can make this very complicated, or we can make this a lot less complicated. So frankly, I'm going to do the less complicated version. Make sure that section is selected, tab into edit mode, select just one of these, let's not make it too difficult, hit Shift D. Shift D duplicates that panel without having it connected to the rest, so you can kind of move it around like so. And yeah, let's GY, move it away from the window a little bit. And then actually, just while you're here, select these two and delete them. So you got a big old hole in your mesh. Don't worry about that, we'll focus on it later. Go into this little bad boy. And what we want to do is select your loop tool again, it's already there. So let's go into this view. Select your loop tool then, select that one, select there, but then go down to loop cut and slide and just change that to 2. And there you go. That gives us the 6 windows that you need. So like before, select each one of those, hit I, and it should already kind of be on that mode because you used it earlier. Hit it, hit E, bring it in, then you can use L, and that selects everything that the that particular part of the mesh isn't connected to, or is connected to, without selecting the entire thing. Hit G, Y, and just slide that back into the mesh there. Isn't that starting to look a bit familiar? Hopefully it does. Cool. Right. That will probably already be selected, so hit Shift D, G, X, and slide that across. And that's also a very brilliant moment to realize that I actually haven't scaled these perfectly accurately. So what I'm going to do is select each one of those using the edge select, or not the edge select, the face select. You wouldn't know I've been using this program for 10 years. And slide that in. About there. And doesn't that look a bit familiar? What does that look like? Who knows? Well, congratulations, because we've got to do that on every single other one of these doors. Now, there's a kind of a fun cheat you can do here, and we're going to have to turn it off eventually, but if you go into edit mode and look at the shape that way, you can wireframe. In fact, let's go to view 3 so it's on the side. Box, delete all that, just make sure none of those are selected. Box, and delete all that. Delete faces. What have you done, Chris? You've deleted half the TARDIS. No, I have not. Oh, ye of little faith. You've got this little selection of panels down here that we haven't bothered with before. That's cool. No worries about that. If you go down to this little spanner here and then go to Add Modifier, you can come into this little screen, and under the Generate section you've got Mirror, and that has done nothing. But don't worry about that. There's these little axes here, and we just select the one that's relevant, deselect the one that's not, and as you can see, the TARDIS has returned to its original shape. But this time around, which will save us about half the amount of work, you may notice that it now mirrors everything that's going on along the side. So what I can now do is go down there, make sure that we have this loop cut here that goes to the edge, just like we have on the other side. Go up here, hit I. Maybe go for this view just so we can line it up best we can. Yeah, we'll do. Bring that in. Actually, if I wanted to be particularly clever, what I could do is select the reference, hit R to rotate, hit Z to lock rotation to the Z axis, and hit 90. And that does that. Or you could just hit R, rotate, and then spin it out into oblivion. Anyway, move this around here. Professional Blender users are probably like, Chris, why didn't you just rotate the model? Surely it would have been much easier. And to that I say, good point. Anyway, back to this bit. So, select all those, slide them in each section. So these are already pretty well lined up, but like before, these are not. So just right click or left click, bring that down, extrude these bad boys in, or select them all, and then extrude these bad boys in, about the same. Delete the top ones, come around to the left here, select panel that, hit L to select that whole section, Shift D to make a new one, hit R, hit Z to lock it to the R rotation, 90, boom. You can already see where I'm going with this, you clever people. And then just drag that in there. And once again, I haven't quite got those measurements correct, so I'm just going to adjust that. S, Y, make that a little smaller, and did they shift down by accident? Yes, they did. Cool. Bring that up. There. And yeah, drag these up to fit. Absolutely wonderful. And there you go, we're getting there. Still just this back section that we need to roll with, but that's okay. For now, like, let's just enjoy the fact that we have 3 sides of the TARDIS done, and let's move on. Right, we're going to do this little seam down the middle of the door. So we're going to hit this one, this little edge down here using the edge selector. We're going to hit this little edge up here, but we're going to hit Control Select, and that will select everything in between. We can select it individually, but I do not have the time. And this time you can use Control B, which bevels. So Control B, and that does that. Means that you can, like, it basically just saves time adding sort of extra bits in. Make sure the little diamonds that it sort of creates on each side are not selected. It's not such a problem up there. Oh, it is. There we go. And maybe not select that one, just so that we're not catching it there. Hit it, hit extrude, E, and just pull that out. There's a door. Do that for the other side. So let's put a loop up there just to be safe, because I think that's what we missed in the last one. Select that one, that top one there. Control, select this one down here. Let's try the other side. Select that bad boy there. Select this bad boy here. Control B. Fair. Right. Now you're not going to be able to do it on these ones because we're still in mirror mode. So tab out of edit mode. Hit apply there. Now it's a full on mesh again. So select that one. Select that one. Control B once more. Bring it out a bit. Take that one out. Deselect that one. Pull that forward. There you go. We are getting there. Ignore that side. Right. So let's finish the sign up at the top. Without getting to like more complicated like texturing and things like that, we're probably not going to be able to get a reasonably accurate version of the police box font, but what I would just do here for simplicity is just get the wee sort of like little selector there by using either left or right, whichever you've got it set up to, and hit Shift A. Shift A brings up this menu, and that means that you can add more stuff again, and go down here to text, and rather unhelpfully the text is lying down naturally, so use G to drag it around, drag it forward a bit, hit R, hit X, hit 90 degrees, and that will get the text to stand up. And then select just to bring it down here. G to move it around. And just sort of line it up in front of the box there. Cool. Now, if you tab into edit mode while you're working with text, it is a bit different because actually, let me just drag it out here so we can actually see it. If you're working with edit mode with text, it's a bit different. Instead of vertices and stuff like that, it is just like any other text. So here we need police box. Let's not worry about that little bit just for a moment. We'll go into wireframe, line it up. For all I was complaining about fonts, this actually does seem to be relatively right. So, well done, Blender. Maybe get those a bit closer together. Funnily enough, the actual prop for the TARDIS ended up changing like a dozen times over the years. So, honestly, like, I am not that obsessed with getting it perfect because at the end of the day, it did change from episode to episode, and also, you know what? The chameleon circuit is a fickle thing. Let's just let it do its thing. That is the police box. Let's do the public call side of things. So, like the same, select around there in the same point. Hit text. Like before. X, get that bad boy to stand up. S, shrink it down a bit. Shrink it down a bit further this time. Go into tab and edit mode. Public call. Yep. So paragraph style, we just need to change that. You can go into the settings down in the A section here in the sidebar and just set that alignment to, let's go center. Yeah, peachy. Tab and edit mode. And just stick that there. That seems about right. just because we're dealing with details as well, what you can do here, which I find is quite useful, go into this little like top right little box up here, the shading box, and you can just control how the actual viewport is seen. I like this little color randomness here. That is not helpful. And that just basically makes all your items different colors, so it's a bit easier to view them. It would help, however, if, there we go, just makes stuff a bit easier to place, you know? Cool. Now, just while we're at this part, let's think about colors, because at the moment it is a bunch of random colors. This isn't actually how stuff generally looks whenever you render stuff out of Blender. If you type Z and then go to this rendered view up here, that's currently what everything's doing. And you might notice it's shaded a bit differently, it's shaded a bit more realistically, and there's like everything's affected by light. This is like a little light up here that already loads in with the scene, and as you can see, yeah, we can need to add some colors to this dude. So the reason I'm also doing it here is because we're going to have to add it to this before we copy it around the other four sides. So let's give it a bit of a shot. Let's select the main body, go into the sidebar here, and look at this little like materials tab in the side. Select it, and you get this big list of stuff, and they all do different things. And honestly, right now, I am not going to worry about it because that is a whole thing in itself. So let's just pick something vaguely TARDIS blue, or you know what, feeling lazy, select the color wheel, select this little like eyedropper, go over to your reference, select that, and bang, there you go, Matt Smith TARDIS cover. Now if you go into the Z and that rendered view, there you go, that's not too bad. Baby's first TARDIS, you know. Back into solid view, Z solid, just in case I didn't give you that keystroke before. Sweet. Now let's go into this bad boy. What that has done is that whenever we created that new material, it's created a little material up here called, helpfully, material. Just because I'm good. Normally I don't sort of name my materials because I'm only the one ever who does my models, but let's be professionals today. So TARDIS blue. I'm pretty sure a professional 3D modeler just had a heart attack. So now when you select this particular box, there's nothing there. So what you can do is go to this little drop down, TARDIS blue, right there waiting for us. These little bad boys as well. Drop down menu, TARDIS blue. As for the public call box, traditionally that is white, and also in this particular instance, it's also glowing. So instead of going to TARDIS blue, let's hit new in the materials tab. It already sets to white. There's this little setting down here called emission, but let's change that to white, and that will mean that it kind of gives off this bit of a glow. This isn't exactly the best framing to see that in, but it's a start. Also, you may notice that there's two colors in this particular section. So what we do here is you select the object, you go up to this plus icon, which is adds a material slot, add a material slot, hit new, tab into edit mode, make sure face select is selected, select the face that you want the different color to be, select the little material on the right here, hit a sign, and that changes that material. That is white, that is wrong, that is functionally inaccurate, I will get hate mail. Let's change this base color to black, and there you go. Ain't that a TARDIS? We're getting there. Don't worry guys, we're getting there. Right. So let's select this main box here. Let's select one panel out of each of these windows. I still haven't done this side yet, but you know what? Like I said, for expedience, hit L. Right, let's have a look at the windows. So let's tab into here. Let's select one of these little tabs of each one. Hit L. Right, let's have a look at the windows. Select the main box, tab into Edit View, and then let's select one of these windows, hit L, Shift select another one, and then hit L, Shift select another one, hit L, Shift select this one. Wasn't quite cooperating there for a second. Shift select this one, L, Shift select this one, L. Still haven't done this side yet? You can do that in your own spare time. Like I said, we're going for expedience. Go into this like little plus sign in the right over here, and from the drop down menu, let's just make a new one so it's not holographic. So let's just hit new, keep it white. Let's call this one white, and hit assign. Now the windows are white. Sweet. And then go back out there. Select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. There we go, that sounds about right. Right guys? Go to this like little top right section here, hit new. These are windows, so there's a couple of ways to do windows in Blender. If you look at the principled BDSF little like surface here, that can be changed to a glass shader. Again, it has a look. In fact, it doesn't look too bad. I'll just show you here. Let's make sure those are assigned. It doesn't look too bad. This particular like render engine's not exactly like set up for them, but what I tend to do is we go back to the principled BDSF shader. There we go. And we slide up the transmission, which transmission essentially kind of makes it see-through. Let's not get too complicated into the science of it. And there you go. It's quite hard to see, again, just because of the rendering setup that we got. Let's put some more lights in actually just while we're here. So just select that light, grab it, bring it across, or Shift A. There's like a whole plethora of lights that you could add here. Sweet. Let's bring this around because I know it's already annoying people. So let's select the police, let's select the public call, let's select this box here, hit 7 to go into top view. Now what we do is we Shift D, that creates a new one, so just drop it there. R, 90, that's not the side we want, let's go back. R, 180. Boom, that's exactly what we want. So let's drag that in, like so. Shift D, R, 180, drag that one over there. Looking good, Mr. TARDIS. Shift D, R, 90, slot that little guy in there. There you go. It's not perfect, but it doesn't need to be. Like I said, it's your first TARDIS. Everybody remembers their first TARDIS. Right, so if you go into rendered view, looks kind of like that. Doesn't look too bad. Sweet, let's add a lamp. So go to the top here. As you can see, the lamp is kind of made up of some complicated shapes. But for the purposes of this, let's keep it simple. In fact, let's just add it as a new shape. So select that little top section here using either the left or right keys, go into mesh, go into cube, make it smaller using the S. You guys remember the hotkeys already, don't you guys? Make sure that's roughly lined up on the top there. Cool. Yep, that's pretty good. Right, now we're getting pretty complicated because we've got a cylinder going on. Nobody said there'd be cylinders, right? So let's just select the middle, Shift A, and then in the list of meshes here we've got a cylinder. Select it, make it smaller. In fact, let's use the reference, Chris. Might be helpful. Line it up there. Line that up there. We've got to like adjust for like a slight parallax because obviously when this photo was taken it was with perspective. There we go. Weirdly enough, that is basically what the lamp was in the Tom Baker era. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was just that. It's just this. And you know what? Nothing wrong with that, but let's make it slightly more complicated. So select this bad boy, tab into that particular edit mode, extrude, make that bigger, extrude again, extrude one more time, out that way, extrude going up, go back into wireframe. Loop cut over here. Here we go, so bring this around here. Select a loop cut, put one on there, make a rough shape like that, hit Shift B, nope, Control B to bevel. And then what you can do with this particular bevel is if you go into this like little tab that's just open up here, you can add more bevels, which smooths it out quite nicely. And then there's like a little doohickey up top. And there we go. It's looking very swish. So go into material properties just in the right hand tab, go into list of materials, TARDIS blue, huzzah, go into edit mode, select these bad boys, go into actually wireframe mode from the side, hit B, drag across, go up to the little like plus sign in the right hand side, go into your little like list of materials now. You've got your glass. Should have probably named that glass. Hit assign. Let's name it glass while we're here just because we're good. I am pure chaos. Hit tab. And there we go. Make that blue. And you know what? We've got these little like supports, so select that section, Shift A, add a cylinder, SZ, make it bigger, so go into top view, line this up correctly, Shift D, GY, and then Shift select that one, Shift D, GX, slide it across there, and then yeah, select, make it TARDIS blue. You know how it does it. You know how we're doing it. And that's how we look. Not too shabby. If you want to be extremely detailed, tab into here, grab one of these loop cuts, bring it out here, shift, and I think if you shift and right click, yep, you can select around, yeah, if you shift and alt, that selects a loop. So if I was to like select the end of this one and Shift Alt, that would select everything in the loop around there. If I was to like hit the right of this and Shift Alt, that selects all that. Huzzah! Hit E, scale, make it a bit bigger. S, Z, scale it down a bit. Shift Alt to kind of like, or yeah, select right, select Alt, assign to TARDIS blue. Boom. Looks pretty good. Now let's make the sign. Tab, select the main box, and tab, select this little panel here. So what the sign does from memory is it extrudes in a little bit. So select the face and hit E, and then scale it in using S, and then just like try to line it up. It's not too bad. Like I said, don't have to be perfect. E to slot that in a bit. Go to your Materials tab, hit Y and assign. Not too bad. Right. This is the exciting bit where I type out everything on the front of the sign. Here's a little fun fact from you. When I was first working on the Dalek universe trailer for Big Finish, I will roll a clip of it while I'm doing this because it's far more exciting than me typing out the contents of the police box sign. We got to almost basically the final delivery date and then realized that I had actually made a typo in the front of the box which the trailer starts on. So, you know, you can't win them all. Police telephone. Make sure that is centralized like we did before. Free for use of public officers will respond. Just let me Google this just in case I've got it right. There we go. Advice. Assistance. Obtainable immediately. Officers and cars respond to all calls. Pull to open. Now immediately you can see that this is all the wrong size. Now you can type it out individually, but then again I am pure chaos. So what I tend to do here is I go up to this object section in the top left, convert to mesh. And what that does is that basically gives us some vertices that if we want to manipulate this in any particularly exciting ways, we can. Not that I really want to do any of that, I just kind of want to scale it just so it roughly fits what's on here. So B, select a box, drag that one up, so GZ, B, drag these down, B, nope, select it, make sure everything's not selected, B, select everything, make sure the free for use of public. There we go, that looks vaguely right. It's hard to see against the end there, so what we do is we select that, we hit new, we go to the materials little slider, we hit new, and then let's turn that base color to black, change the material name to black. There we go. Let's make that stand out a bit more from there. Nearly done, guys, nearly done. So select that little section there, Shift A, mesh, select wee cylinder down here, scale it in, hit R, hit Y, 90 degrees, go to like this view here, SX, slot that in, and like I'm not going to bore you by doing a tutorial on how to produce a keyhole, but you know what, make it gold, new material, change it roughly to a nice gold color. Let's like take this metallic slider and let's take this metallic slider and just ramp it up there, just so that it gives us this sort of like metallic sheen. And then finally let's do the door handle. So what I would do for that is Shift A, mesh, cube, scale it in. Select Z, bring it up. Scale it in. Select each side, E, S, Z, bring them out a bit. Select that bit, select that one, E, bring them in, and I think it comes out a bit, so get your loop cut tool up in the left ear, select a little loop there, not that one, select a little loop there, go into the face select there, select that one, hit E, hit S, hit Z, make it bigger. Not bad. And here's a cool thing that you can do while we're here. Go into the modifiers tab, the little spanner here on the right here. Same one that we went to look for the mirror. And if you notice, not too far below the mirror, we've got this thing called Subdivision Surface. If you hit that, it kind of creates this somewhat interesting smooth shape for it. So knock that up a bit, add a couple more layers of subdivision. I guess probably the best way to explain a subdivider, in fact, just for the ease of use, that is a cube. It has 6 sides. If you add a subdivision surface to it, it now has 12 sides. Whatever the multiplier from that. Basically, it just adds a whole it smooths everything out and adds a whole pile of faces to it. Hopefully that was a vaguely interesting description of that. But for the purposes of this tutorial, we have created a door handle. Let's make it black. And there we go. Now, obviously, there's like a lot more we could do in terms of texturing and lighting and just doing general stuff, but in the most basic of ways, you have created your first TARDIS, and I think you should be very proud of yourself. Maybe your one will have 4 sides. How cool will that be? Anyway, I hope that was in some way useful and helpful. Feel free to drop me a follow on my social media and enjoy the rest of Brit Sci-Fi.